You've got the number one player in the state, according to every ranking for 2027. And oh, by the way, you got the number two player in the state, according to every ranking in 2027. You don't usually see that much talent on the field at one time. Hello and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Kevin Flaherty. I'm here as always with my good friend Ryan Wallace, and we're talking about the world of local recruiting, from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. This past Friday, Ryan went to Blue Valley's 30-14 victory over Blue Valley Northwest, while I traveled to Topeka-Seaman to catch Shawnee Heights' 20-3 win over the Vikings. We'll talk more about the teams and players we watched a little bit later in the show, including, get this, a Lockett at Blue Valley. Ryan talked with Jacob Lockett, an emerging player in that 2027 class, so you won't want to miss that. If you like what you're hearing, comment below, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, or leave us a review, a 5-star rating, wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. We have our own specific audio channel through KCSN on Apple and Spotify, so you can seek us out there. As always, we appreciate you guys helping us to grow the show and putting us in front of more people like you. Ryan, this past week was pretty alarming for local schools.
Oh, I like it.
For those of you just tuning in, when we sound the alarm, or in this case, turn the alarm on, it means one of Kansas, Kansas State, or Missouri landed a commitment. In this case, it's multiple commitments spread over multiple schools. Let's start with Kansas, which initially lost the race for talented Oklahoma running back Katie Jones of Jenks. With the coaching change at Oklahoma State, Jones reopened his recruitment, and the Jayhawks made the most of their second chance, Ryan.
Katie Batman Jones. So I went with the bat signal. I tell you what, man, just watching a little bit of Katie Jones on film, K-State or KU might have gotten themselves a superhero in the backfield here. Like, there's a lot that we liked about a Mockery, right? The committed running back that KU already had in tow for 2026. But we're talking about a young man here, Kevin, that nearly ran for 500. I mean, he went over 500 when you go all together offensive all-purpose yards, but nearly rushed for 500 yards in a single game this season with 8 touchdowns. This is one of the more impressive running backs, just complete running backs that I can remember KU getting since a guy by the name of Devin Neal.
Sure.
I mean, and I would venture to guess, Kevin, I'm curious your thoughts on this. I think KD's got a little bit more boost to him. I think the all systems go can get him north to south, 0 to 100, over 100 yards, like in a hurry, right? So there might be a little bit of, Mockery's got that speed, right? But I think Katie Jones has it as well, and in a package that is very, very well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the way he catches the ball out of the backfield and what Kansas likes to do under first-year offensive coordinator Jim Zabrowski, this is really a hand-in-glove fit. He's somebody that has a chance to churn up some explosive plays for you in the running game. That's something that Kansas wants to do more than they're currently doing, but also a guy that you can utilize just as an overall weapon out of the backfield as well. Jones is the number 21 running back in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, and Kansas's 20-man recruiting class now sits 35th.
So, Kevin, real quick, let's just real quick. Justin Thurman, Corey Mockery, Katie Jones. That's
pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's disgusting in a good way, in a very positive way.
I would tend to agree with you. Ryan, real estaters love flipping properties, and the Missouri Tigers love flipping football players. Missouri landed 4 commitments in the past week. All 4 of those players were previously committed to Power 4 schools. That included 2 offensive linemen, 4-star Johnny Jones from Venice, Florida, former UCLA commit, former Iowa State commitment Bryson Wessel, and 2 safeties who were committed to Big 12 schools, Brody Jones of Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Carter Stewart of Texas's Shadow Creek. They switched from commitments to Cincinnati and Utah, respectively. Ryan, where do you want to get started on this group?
Well, Truman is posing, man, because he has every right to be, because it feels like over the course of the last week, we've watched the Missouri Tigers climb from in the 60s or 50s of the 2026 class. Now they're up into the 30s. And again, questions looming, right, about Eli Drinkwitz and maybe some open jobs. But the way he has things cooking at Missouri, you understand why Tigers fans would say, I don't think he's going anywhere. And to be honest, I don't know if he has reason to, because he's proving that, you can get really good players to come to Missouri and keep the Tigers near the top of the SEC. You mentioned that Johnny Jones, the offensive tackle out of Venice, Florida, massive kid, 6'6", 305 pounds. You said it kind of before we went on. He seems to fit the bill of what Missouri likes at offensive tackle, right? Just massive human beings. They can also be a little bit more mobile than you're used to seeing with guys of that size. The one that intrigued me, I think, the most out of this foursome here was Wessel out of Jackson, Missouri, an in-state grab for the Tigers. Here's why. I think Wessel's a really good player. I think that, he fits what Missouri wants to do. I think Iowa State would be one of those schools to me that I like how they evaluate offensive linemen. And so when you're able to steal somebody that the Cyclones liked in the trenches, I think that bodes well for Missouri. It also bodes well for me if I'm the Tigers, because I wonder now if it maybe gets them back into the mix, as if they were ever out of it. I say they back into the mix because they hadn't offered him yet. But Braden Harris is a 2027 offensive tackle that's actually bigger, at least taller and longer than Wessel is. And so you look at Harris, he's got offers from KU, Iowa State. I think Mississippi State is in there. Missouri State was in there. I said Mississippi State, Illinois, Cincinnati, Wazoo is in there as well. Like, this is a really big time kid in 2027. Tigers hadn't offered yet. Maybe even they don't have to, but this kind of gives them a little bit of a boost with him. And then, the other young man, Carter Stewart.
Yeah.
Shadow Creek is one of those programs. And again, when we talked to Greg Powers about it, like when Utah is sniffing around in Texas at a program like Shadow Creek, I would like to think that trends in the right direction for Missouri as well. So good haul, but I really like what they did flipping Wessel from Iowa State, and see here in 6 months to a year how that helps at all with Braden Harris.
Missouri's class is now actually the highest ranked of the three local Power 4 schools, with the Tigers jumping up to number 31 in 24/7 Sports rankings. Let's get into our Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week. Tacos for Life has a wide variety of options to choose from in their fresh scratch kitchen and locations in 8 states, including right here in Kansas and Overland Park, with catering and food truck options available as well. For those parents, make sure to dine in for the $1.99 kids meal after 4 o'clock.
Clutch.
And for every taco, rice bowl, salad, quesadilla, or nachos that you enjoy, a meal is donated to Feed My Starving Children on a meal-for-meal basis. Those meals are then shipped to more than 90 countries, to feeding centers, care points, orphanages, schools, and refugee camps. The Overland Park location has given out more than 736,000 meals over 3 years, while Tacos for Life as a whole has donated nearly 43 million meals. It's a great cause, and you can help just by doing what we all know and love, chowing down on some great tacos. Every week, we will pick a Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week. This week's pick is Amari Powell of Odessa. The Bulldogs have started the season 6-1 and 5-0 in district play, and that includes last week's 26-21 win at Pleasant Hill. Ryan, you've been an Amari Powell fan for quite a while, and he's doing a lot of fun stuff on both sides of the ball.
I sure have, and I felt like this was as good a time as ever to spotlight Amari, because they're coming off just a huge road win at Pleasant Hill, a team that clipped them last year, getting a big road win there, but also he's coming off 2 weeks prior to that with Warrensburg and Center, where the offense put up 60 and 42 collectively, and then he bounces back and proves that they can kind of stifle a Pleasant Hill attack that has a lot of athletes that we've talked about, leading up to this season. And I think what you're seeing from Amari this year, when you throw on his tape, is a senior that is just picking up where he left off as a junior. Really long wide receiver that can do a little bit of everything when you see yards after catch. Here he is in the Mexico game, the lone loss of the year. for Odessa. But again, a kid that can really stretch it. I love the play here with the double move. Quarterback sets it up nice, but I mean, that's what he does. And he's a player we talk about on this show a lot. I feel like he gains more speed with the more field that you're going to give him. But again, I think last year he was beating a lot of players over the top. This year, they're having to scheme him to get him open a little bit more because there's a little bit more attention on him, a little bit more coverage. But he's proving that he can make the most out of very little, right? I think they're getting him open with bubble screens and things like that, and he's still taking it to the house. But again, the other thing beyond what we're seeing him do as a wide receiver, Kevin, is something I talked about when we chatted about him being kind of an under-recruited guy in the offseason, which is as good of ball skills as he has, with the athletic ability that he has and the way that he tracks the ball and the vision and all these things. He's made, I think, a killing as a safety this season and taken his game to the next step there. And I know that there's some schools out there that are still in on him as a wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if as more and more film keeps coming and Odessa is going to make a push into the Class 4 playoff bracket this year instead of Class 3, if more people don't look at him as an athlete, because I really do feel like he's got a lot of upside as a safety. Look, he can do some great things as a wide receiver, might not have quite the juice that you want as a top tier wide receiver, maybe at an FCS level. That's not to say he can't make that roster, maybe by flipping more of his tape on defense. I think you're going to see a safety that, again, has really good coverage, athletic enough to play as a DB, but also the instincts, the kind of vision and hand-eye coordination that you like from a long safety.
And here is our Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week. Amari, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Amari, you obviously play both sides of the ball, and I feel like we start off with softball questions a lot of times, but I'm going to get right to the heart of the matter. Where are you better? Are you better on offense, or you think you're better on defense at this point?
I feel like I'm better on offense, but I'm also a pretty good defensive player too. But I try to do whatever my team needs me to do. So I'm great at both. So I do whatever my team needs me to do to get the win.
Amari, I wanted to ask specifically about this game that, we wanted to spotlight you for, coming off the big win at Pleasant Hill, a team that you guys had been clipped by twice each of the past 2 years. You go on the road to do it this year. How motivated was Odessa going into that game, and how pumped is this team coming off of that victory?
We were very motivated. We haven't beat Pleasant Hill in about 5 years. And when the schedule came out, they were circled on my calendar to go beat them because I've never beat them in my high school career. So I knew when we were playing them Friday that we're going to have to play our best. And I knew they were going to come out playing their best. They haven't had a really good season. They're going to come out fighting strong. So when we got the win, it meant a lot to beat them finally after 5 years of losing to them.
Amari, Ryan and I talked before you came on. When you had the strip play on the running back, it looked a little bit like what you had the contact, but then it almost was like you had a basketball play where you just kind of took the ball right out of his hand. What kind of basketball background you got?
I play basketball too. I play a little bit of guard and forward, and it's basically just playing defense. That's all it was. It's like stealing the ball, and I knew my team needed me to make a big play in that game. So whenever he came at me, I hit him, and I felt the ball coming out a little bit. So as he was going up, trying to like run through me, I just came up and I ripped the ball out, and we just had the ball. And I know a lot of people were probably confused of what had happened, but I knew I had the ball. So I tried to run to the end zone, but they stopped me. But I was just glad to make a big play in the game.
Amari, you went into your senior offseason with a coaching change. Coach Thomas is out, and Coach Jewell comes over from Lutheran North. How is Coach Jewell and everything he brought with him from a program like Lutheran North? How has he helped take your game to the next level as a senior?
I really do like Coach Jewell. He's a very good coach, and whenever he came in the offseason, I knew we were going to get a new coach. But then when he came to do the interview, I really like what he has brought. And whenever he came, he was telling me that I was going to be a big key in this team and that I was going to have to play my best because we're trying to go win the state championship. So when he came to Odessa, I was very excited. I seen he won state in Class 4, and I like to have a coach that has already won. So right now he's just teaching us what we need to do to go win another state title.
Amari, when this is a recruiting show in addition to everything else, what kind of college attention are you getting at this point? And have coaches said whether they prefer you as like a safety or a wide receiver at this point, or is it kind of a mix of both?
As of right now, all my offers are coming from receiver.
Yep.
Defense, I mean, I could be a really good corner. Like, it's just basically playing receiver, but on the other side of the ball. And as of right now, no coaches have seen me play corner, but as I sent that film out this week, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of coaches seeing that I could play both ways.
Amari, Ryan and I tend to think that you're a sleeper guy, that you're under-recruited, and that you should be getting more attention than you are. Is there anybody else like that on your team where you feel like, hey, whether it's, coaches or media or whoever, that people should be paying more attention to? And can you shine a little bit of a light on those guys?
Yes, sir. We have a lot of players that are very underrated on our team. We come from a small school, so not a lot of coaches are seeing the work we're putting in. And we got a lot of good players. We got Jackson Whitaker. He's also another great receiver on our team. We got a quarterback, Michael Scott, a running back, Cole Westerhold. We got an outside linebacker, one of the best in the state, Tate Heitman. Defensive end, Cade Carroll. We got a sophomore safety, Isaiah Hanks, and a corner, Braden Kirkland. We got a lot of good players. Will Scott, one of the best middle linebackers probably in the country right now. And we got a lot of good players on our team. Our coaches are doing great, like Coach Fox, Coach Van Hook, Coach Ron, Coach Jewell, Coach Bowman, Coach Kratz, and Coach Doyle. We got a lot of great coaches, and they're just pushing us every day to get better. And you can see the way we're playing. We're playing very good football right now, and I'm not the only one playing great football. It's my whole team. So I want to just thank everybody on my team. So that's about it.
That's awesome. Amari, as our player of the week, we'll be sending you and all of our future Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week picks a gift card to enjoy the food over at Tacos for Life.
So thank you so much.
We'll be right back on the Verbal Commitment Podcast after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast. You can follow along with us on Twitter/X at verbalcommitment_KC for clips from the show, conversations about local players, and even the odd highlight. And calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Ryan, you went out to Blue Valley's win over Blue Valley Northwest, and we'll get to a few of the other guys here in just a minute. But first, I know one of the guys that you really wanted to get eyes on was a guy we saw super early in his career, and that's Barron Marshall over at Blue Valley Northwest. How did he hold up?
Well, again, it was my 20-year high school reunion, and so I was back with some former classmates, and we're all talking in the stands, and a couple of the guys that used to play football were like, so, do you know anything about either of these teams? Who's like the big standout? And I said, do you see number 4 down there? I said, you're going to want to watch him throughout this game. And again, it wasn't maybe the night that the Blue Valley Northwest offense wanted. The protection just wasn't there at times. Aiden McGibney appears out with an injury. He wasn't even dressed out, had kind of a knee brace. Didn't get around to talking to Aiden. So, not sure how severe that is, but not having him, right, kind of hamstrings that offense a little bit. I think it gives more attention and coverage to Barron Marshall, and then allows guys to kind of load the box a little bit and try and attack LJ Bowens. LJ Bowens had a pretty good pretty solid game, given again kind of some protection issues. But Barron Marshall delivered again and again and again. And I think what is interesting about Barron is, and again, the alumni that were around me are a good example of this, is it's like, wow, they would look at me and they're like, man, that number 4 is as advertised. Like, what kind of offers does he have? And I'm like, oh, Tennessee, Miami, like Auburn, like you name it. Like he's an SEC like caliber kid. He can go anywhere in the country. And they're like, oh, so like, how soon will he decide? And that was when it was like, well, he's a sophomore, guys. And he is the real deal, I guess, is the way. What I'm trying to get at is that he delivered in a game where like he didn't get as much targets. He didn't get as much attention. Balls weren't maybe placed exactly where he'd want them. And yet he's making diving catches. He's going yards after contact. Very, very impressed with Barron Marshall. Lived up to the billing that we have kind of bestowed on him. And I know the scouting outlets as well, but he will be, if not the number 1 in the conversation for the number 1 player in Kansas. And probably even when you add in the Kansas City, Missouri Metro part of that to the equation, I think he's that good of a receiver.
On the other side, I know you liked what you saw from Jacob Lockett in that Blue Valley receiving corps.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Taft Stuvey had a good game. The quarterback for Blue Valley, whose name is escaping me right now, was tremendous. We've been hearing more and more about that Tigers offense. And I think when you start to look at kind of the season that Dan Sogard has had, I thought he was very accurate, Kevin. Poised, his presence in the pocket was above what I even expected to see from him. So that was big. But Jacob Lockett, as we talked about in last week's show, dynamic. I thought the way that he was stretching the field, the way that he was being crafty and how he got to the back level behind the Blue Valley Northwest Husky defense. Sterling Lockett, right? His older brother was crafty in a way where he could find space kind of in the middle of the field and then try and kind of maneuver his way out from there. I think with Jacob, you're seeing more tendencies of a Kevin, more tendencies of a Tyler. He doesn't have Tyler's speed. We'll just say that, but he's got a little bit more juice than Sterling does, more than his twin brother Jordan. And you see kind of elements, a little bit of Sterling, a little bit of Tyler, kind of combined into one. I think he's going to end up being a better player than maybe we presumed and a bigger prospect than we presumed. It just might take some teams a little bit longer as they dive deeper in to his junior highlight tape, but he's going to be one on the 2027 market that I do think with camps, with this junior tape, is going to see an uptick here in this coming spring and summer.
Was there anybody else that kind of jumped out to you just off the top of your head, or somebody else that kind of caught your eye?
Not particularly.
I
mean, not when we're talking. I mean, when
you mentioned a couple guys like Taft, and a few different guys, but
I mean, when we're talking about like Barron, Jacob, that level of a recruit, right? Guys that we feel like have potential FBS, FCS level attention. There are probably some others on the field that just didn't maybe have their game that Friday night. But those were the two that I thought delivered the most. And again, with Dan Sogard, Taft Stuvey, I would throw them in with LJ Bowens as well.
I went to Shawnee Heights 20-3 win over Topeka Seaman, in part to see Kansas receiver commitment Tyron Parker. Had a chance to watch him in warmups, got there really early. And then he caught 2 34-yard passes in the first quarter, playing both ways before leaving the game with an injury. And Ryan, I was pretty impressed. He has the frame of a big, long outside receiver, but he has more juice and more quickness than you're used to seeing out of those kinds of players. I came away just as bullish on his upside as both of us have been. So, Tyron, heal up fast, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, the frame, right? Like, he plays big, but yet at the same time, there's elements to his game, Kevin, that feel like a smaller, speedier receiver, right?
Yeah, for sure. And with him missing time, I do have to give a shout out to that Heights defense. Those are guys that have taken some heat with how good Heights' offense has been. And Ryan, it was such a good defensive showing that it almost felt impossible to pick a specific guy because everybody kind of did their job, right? And that's the basis of good defense. I know Coach Swift was really happy with the overall defensive effort. And if they defend like that, they can maybe surprise some people over these last few weeks. A few guys offensively for Heights were very familiar with Aiden Scott. And even with him being down, maybe his best target, he did a nice job of finding Javon Williams and a guy that I know you like in AJ Gallegos.
Yeah, I just feel like Washburn got such a steal with Aiden Scott. He's the type of player that I think has the ability to really light up the MIAA level if they can get that offense humming by the time he's ready, to where he might put up the kind of numbers that intrigue some people in the portal. And I know Washburn doesn't want to think that, but I think at the same time, if you are Washburn, I think that is kind of the goal, right? Is to try and win with the guys you have. But if you have a player like potentially Aiden Scott could be, allow them to then go and show people that, hey, this kid came from Washburn. He's a stud. I really think the Ichabod's got a good one. And again, he's going to play with that chip on his shoulder, knowing that he's a hometown kid playing for the hometown team. So you're always going to get 110% from him.
He showed a little bit more like from a play extension standpoint than what I had usually seen in terms of, just sort of being a little bit more elusive than you would think he was, buying time for his receivers to get open. He can live a little dangerously doing that, making some late throws across the middle and things like that. But it came off well, and he was a big part of the reason that they wound up winning that game. If you flip it over to Topeka Seaman, obviously they would have preferred a different result, but I was still so impressed with Noah Kobachevsky, at tight end. Had a little bit of a bubble in my throat there. Somebody's going to get a really good player there, Ryan, just in terms of the frame that he has, the fact that, as you found out, he hasn't actually been playing football for that long, and that makes the jump that he's had between his senior year and what he put on junior tape that much more impressive, because you look at the senior tape and you're like, he's not done. Like, this is a kid that's going to continue to get better.
Yeah, you watched the tape that we showed you guys last week, and now you start to realize something that we were alerted to after the show last week, which is it's a kid that's just been playing football since like midway through his freshman year of high school. Yeah. So this is what you're like basically season 2.5 for him playing football. So yeah, the sky is the limit for that kid. And like you said, again, he's putting together a tremendous senior season and taking his body and kind of what he does as an athlete to that next level.
A couple of younger players to watch on that team as well. Coy Barta is going to be a dude in that 2027 class. He even got Tyron Parker a couple times when Tyron was lined up at cornerback against him. And keep an eye on sophomore running back. Yes, that's 2028, Quentin Moravec, who has some toughness in that run game as well. It felt like they were force feeding him the ball quite a bit, and he just kept on trucking. Ryan, the high school season is quickly winding down. It has flown by, and we wanted to take a look at a few superlatives from the season to date. So first, let's look at the best team that we've had a chance to see in person. And hey, surprise here, we both picked the same team.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's no drum roll for this. Like, it's Blue Spring South. It's the Jaguars for you. It's the Jaguars for me. Now, first off, full caveat, full stop. Have not seen Aquinas yet. Have not seen Platte County yet.
Yes.
So take that into consideration. But this Blue Spring South squad is absolutely loaded in the trenches. I think their offensive line is as good as it gets, and I don't think you're going to find an offensive line that's better. There's so many weapons. I think what they can do offensively, hey, we'll challenge you through the air, and if you do have the type of defense that can cover all the receivers that we have, and they do spread it around to all four of them, we're just going to start to beat you down like a drum with the run. And then on defense, again, I think that maybe not as star-studded maybe on defense as the offense is, in terms of guys that maybe can go to a high level and play at the next level. But guys that I feel like are very tenacious, know their roles, are assignment sound, and it's a secondary that I think is really good. If there is maybe one weakness for me, Kevin, the question will be Blue Spring South, if they face kind of a similar offensive line that they have with a dynamic run game. How can they withstand, now you're starting to bring some of those secondary guys up into the box. But again, Liberty was a school that you thought maybe had those components to do it, and Blue Spring South just absolutely washed the Liberty Blue Jays. So I don't know if they're going to see anything like that until maybe the state championship game. I know, Coach Wilmus would say we got to get there first, but this team it's as loaded kind of a top to bottom roster as I can remember in quite a while at the Class 6 level on the Missouri side.
Yeah, I agree. They've got dynamic playmakers, on the outside on offense, in the defensive backfield on defense. And then they've got the physicality up front on both sides and playmakers all over the place. And on top of that, Ryan, they're pretty well coached too,
yes,
which does not hurt either. Next, we asked each other to come up with our surprise team so far. Ryan, you went with Olathe West, while I went down to the Wichita area and tapped Maize. What impressed you about the Owls so far?
5-1 under Coach Wiemers, and again, remember this is a team that was 3-6 last year, 2-7 the year before. Right now, Kevin, they would be the number 4 seed in 6A on the east side if the season ended today. And what's crazy is they still got a lot left on the table where they can actually move up, because Shawnee Mission East, who is the number 2 seed currently, and Olathe Northwest, who's the number 1 seed currently in 6A East, are still remaining. Those are their last 2 regular season games. So the Owls have a real opportunity to knock off the 2 top teams in the East still left on their schedule. But here's what impresses me most is they've owned wins over the last 2 weeks against Gardner Edgerton and Mill Valley, and an offense that hung a combined 101 points on those 2 programs. And this is an offense that, remember, lost Cameron Cruz, their returning quarterback, who's an underclassman, would have been his junior year, and Tevin Gassaway, who's down at Hutch. Re-enter Brody Hale, who's a guy that has some experience at quarterback, but I think Cruz was starting to kind of inch up there. Cruz leaves. Hale kind of has this newfound confidence again, and he is lighting it up with Sam Kurskowski, a 6'1", 180-pound wide receiver that you and I probably need to be digging into a little bit more. But Sam, buddy, you've got to get some huddle tape up there for us. I love what I'm seeing on Twitter. I want to see more of it. And I know that I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are coaches out there that are like, can I please get some Kurskowski film? Sam's 3rd in the Metro right now, 705 yards overall, 19.6 per catch, 10 touchdowns, is 2nd in the Metro. He's got an older brother, Will, that's a Central Missouri baseball player. And I know Sam plays baseball himself, and maybe that's the future, but he is putting together a tremendous season offensively. I want to see more of him. And then Kevin on defense, Jalen Johnson, Connor Tracy up front, Cash Warren in the middle, and then our guy Von Overton that we told you guys about long time ago. He and Brody Butler are really shutting it down in the secondary. I'm ecstatic about what I'm seeing from the Owls. I'm hopeful that maybe we can see him here soon.
I'm not saying I didn't think Maize would be good. I think both of us really like Braden Maivella. He's such a dynamic player at quarterback in that offense. And we liked a lot of the other pieces on Coach Guzman's team. But Ryan, I did not think that they would be undefeated, the top-ranked team in 6A, and second only to Aquinas in the statewide rankings according to Max Preps. And look, they've earned it. This is a battle-tested team. The Eagles have won every game that they've played by at least 3 touchdowns, and 5 of those 6 wins have come over teams that are 4-2, including a 3-touchdown win over Derby. So Maize is hopping right now. Just got a huge win over rival Maize South. I think 49-0 was the score in that one. Maize South, by the way, 4-2 themselves. So it's not like that was a bad squad either. But Maize, like I said, to me, not a surprise that they were good. A surprise that we're sitting here saying, are they the best team in 6A? Is this a team that is going to go on and win a state title? They put themselves into that conversation for sure.
Equally surprising is the fact that Braden Maivella, their star, is still on the market. like we need, Maize being the number 1 is surprising. Also, Maivella still being out there for the taking, equally surprising. Somebody will get a good one.
Help us help you, college coaches.
Yeah.
Last up, let's take a look at a couple breakout seniors. This can be either a surprise player or somebody that we want to really keep an eye on because they could have something to say in the final few weeks and playoffs. Ryan, you went with St. Joe's Central Cannon Wetlaufer. I really like that pick. I went with Shawnee Mission East Jack Reeves. So I'll ask you, why did you go with Wetlaufer here?
I think So both of the guys that we picked, like it's breakout seniors, they were name guys on their team a year ago.
Sure.
These are returning starters, but they've taken their game to the next level, and statistically it's shining and showing off even more. With Wetlaufer, I'm flabbergasted, honestly, by the statistics that he's putting up, the way he's doing it. It's a kid that plays defense, so he goes both ways. And mind you, was learning a new defense because Coach Farrell and the Indians changed their scheme this offseason. So not only is he handling quarterback duties as the captain of the offense, but now he's also handling kind of captain duties on defense in a new scheme. They have no Gabe Fields to lean on. Remember the running back prospect that went down to Vandy with the Commodores. So you knew that they were going to throw the ball a ton. But then you look at what Wetlaufer's doing. It's not Rocco Marriott right now that's leading the Metro in passing yards. It's Cannon Wetlaufer.
Yeah.
Tops in the Metro, second in the entire state of Missouri in passing yards. He's got Drake Gilkinson, who's helps him. That's a guy that, he's down there somewhere. Just chuck it up. That's free yardage, right? But I'm just really impressed by the fact that he can go both ways and do things on offense in a way that I wasn't expecting. I still think as a recruit, Kevin, his upside is bigger on defense, but I'm just flabbergasted at the yardage that he's putting up for St. Joe's Central. And here's what else, Kevin, as I pitch it back to you, I think the yards are only going to get higher because this is a St. Joe's Central team that still has a 2-5 Excelsior Springs team still left on the schedule and a 1-6 Park Hill South squad in the Suburban Red still left on the schedule. So look for Cannon Wetlaufer's numbers to only go up.
Video game numbers. And speaking of video game numbers, look, it's tough to face the flex bone. We talk about that on this show. We've talked about how a lot of teams have had a lot of success with the flex bone, but it is so much tougher when you're starting to play with the ball in the hands of a quarterback who can house it at any given time. Reeves is having an all-state type of year. And like you said, these are guys who were named guys on their teams a year ago, but have really elevated where they were at. Every time I watch Reeves on tape, my jaw drops. And he's having that kind of season. And we like Shawnee Mission East heading into the year as a sort of sleeper. They're not a sleeper anymore, Ryan. I mean, when you look at where they're going to be seated, the type of year that they're having, and it would not surprise me at all to see him put up 200-plus rushing yards in a big game as the Lancers make a run in the playoffs, maybe even pull off an upset or two in the playoffs. I know right now there wouldn't be many games where it would be an upset for Shawnee Mission East to win, but it wouldn't surprise me at all to see, hey, Jack Reeves had 289 and 3 touchdowns as Shawnee Mission East moves into the quarterfinals or semifinals or whatever it is. He's having that kind of year this year.
Yeah, and if we weren't going to be somewhere else, nod, nod, wink, wink, stay tuned, that Olathe West Shawnee Mission East game this Friday night would be one that would be kind of on the docket. I think if you're in the metro area on the Kansas side, that would be one to get out and watch. Olathe West as a team, Shawnee Mission East as a team, but as you said, I think what Jack Reeves presents to Olathe West and really every team is something that fans can get excited about. It's old school football, but he does it in a really fun, dynamic way.
Where are we going next week? You'll have to wait until after the break to find out. And stick around because Ryan's interview with Blue Valley wide receiver Jacob Lockett will also be right after the break.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity, because you won't be disappointed, and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
This is the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. And Ryan, this Friday night, we'll be heading to a game that we've been pretty excited about, had circled on the calendar for a while. So why don't you take us into where we're headed?
Hayes, America, baby. There's a ticket that we wanted from before this season started, and by God, we said, damn it, we're doing it. We're heading out to Hayes. It's going to be a road trip. It's going to be a good one. And Kevin, first off, let's just start with kind of the big reasons, right? The big names in this game. You're looking at Ian Premer, Cooper Omott on one side, and Gus Kosera on the other. We are going to see three of the biggest recruits in the state of Kansas in one game.
Yeah. You got the number one player in the state by pretty much every ranking in 2026. You've got the number one player in the state according to every ranking for 2027. And oh, by the way, you got the number two player in the state according to every ranking in 2027. You don't usually see that much talent on the field at one time. And you know, we've talked a lot about all of these guys, right? Like Ian's been on the show. He's such a talented guy going to Notre Dame. Cooper Omott continues to see his star rise. Gus Corsair. It feels like every school that's good at producing offensive linemen is calling Gus Corsair, right? You know, and so whenever you see like, oh yeah, that's the school that usually has, they've got Gus Corsair on their board. And so when you look at those three, it's such a great chance to see all of those guys on the field at the same time. But the other thing, Ryan, there are some other players around that big three that have a lot of intrigue as well. You know, Hayes defensive lineman Tanner Geis kind of exploded onto the scene with a huge sophomore year. He had 15 tackles for loss and 9 sacks last year, and he's been a big part of the reason for Hayes' success this year, Ryan.
Well, I was going to say, we could have sat here and talked ad nauseum about Ian Premer, Cooper Omott, Gus Corsair. We've done that on the show plenty. And we're going to do it again, you know, after this week. But highlighting a guy like Tanner Geist is important to us. 6'2", 270, squats almost 600 pounds. He is vicious in the trenches. He is a forklift with the ability to, what is it called? Crab walk, right? Like he's a forklift that can move laterally. I love what he's doing on tape. I mean, this is against Manhattan. You know, one of the best offensive lines you're going to see year in and year out, and you see what he did over and over in these clips. He is just a nasty interior lineman. He's going against a Gus Corsair in practice every day. He's 6'2", 270, like I said. KU, K-State, Wyoming showing some interest here. I think what we're looking forward to seeing from Tanner, and I don't want to take words out of your mouth, Kevin, but we've talked a little bit about Tanner before the show. Like, we know that he's very powerful. We know that he's really strong. I want to see, you know, kind of how he can use the length, right? Also, I want to see kind of this juice in person. Because, again, if you're going to be we say slightly undersized as if 6'2" is small. It's not. But if you're going to kind of look at yourself at a KU K-State level and be 6'2" with the ability to maybe get up into the 290, 300-pound range, I think at that height, and maybe if you don't have quite the length, you've got to have some acceleration. You've got to have some get off and the ability to get around guys and not just be a typical nose tackle, a run plug. That's what I want to see from Tanner Geis. You know, can he, you know, pressure and pursue the Great Bend offensive line? That'll be kind of the spotlight for me, the thing that I'm looking to check off the Tanner Geis box, because I do think, Kevin, he's got FBS level attention or ability potentially that could get him Power 4 level attention in the way of a scholarship from a KU or K-State.
On the other sideline, I know you are fired up to get a chance to watch Great Bend linebacker Cale Kern, who, let's just go ahead and put out there, Team Fun Tape, right?
Dude, this is a dude. I mean, he went from going on visits to Fort Hays State one weekend to he was at Notre Dame a couple weekends ago. Obviously, they know about Ian Premer, but it made me wonder if the Notre Dame staff wasn't like, hey, Have you seen the tape of this other kid, this Cale Kern, junior linebacker, 6'1", 225 pounds? And in my notes, Kevin, I said the thing that I love the most is the way that this kid is pursuing the ball, and you will see it in the very first clip here, up and over, and I'm also going to like spin around like a WWE wrestler and get the sack or the tackle for loss. I absolutely love what I'm seeing from Cale Kern on tape. He's a no-holds-barred type of guy. Like, he's rough and tumble, but I'm seeing some wheels. I'm seeing some lateral movement and some agility here. He's the younger brother of Trenton Kern, another linebacker for Great Bend, 6'1", 210. So you can imagine kind of the wars that they've had probably at the house, mom and dad at the Kern house, like those two guys going at it. And again, being a little bit of being the younger brother, I like that. Like, if I'm a recruiter, like, I like, you're the younger brother of a guy that you're kind of at the same age with, same size with, because I would have to imagine that there were some wars that went on between these guys, just the competitive nature. But Cale Kern has quickly become a name, and not just because he visited Notre Dame. I mean, that helps. But he was a guy, though, that, you saw at least the height and weight, right? And you were like, well, how do we fix this at Great Bend? And then you saw like weeks 1 through 4, and you're like, I'm getting what Marcus Freeman and that staff might be registering too, because there is a lot to like. And again, in this particular game, I'm really excited for it, Kevin, because this is tailor-made for a Cale Kern. What Hayes wants to do offensively, this is the type of game where Cale Kern should excel if he's the type of player that we think he is. Even if Hayes tries to take him out of the game, which it wouldn't surprise me if they do, this is a guy that I'm really excited to see what he can do against this Hayes offense, specifically their rushing attack.
Trenton is a physical dude, so I feel bad for his parents' furniture with Trenton and Cale wrestling around on that stuff. I could imagine that they broke a lot of stuff getting to this point. Yeah. But overall, both of these teams are capable of making deep runs in the playoffs. Great Bend is a perfect 6-0 so far. Well, Hayes is 5-1, and the lone loss came to a full-strength Manhattan. Of course, J.J. Dunnigan's been banged up this year. That was a game J.J. Dunnigan played in, and actually Manhattan's lone touchdown in a 10-8 win came on a Dunnigan kick return. There's a lot of talent on both of those squads.
Do you feel like we're gonna see part 1 of a part 2 later in the year? Like, do you feel like these two are destined to see each other again?
They might. It definitely has that feel, right? And we said that going into St. James Aquinas, where we were just kind of like, well, that was round 1, right? You kind of felt each other out, got some punches out and everything. Neither team was knocked out. You're going to go back out and probably see each other later. It does kind of have that feel that this is a preview for a later one. And speaking of talent, Ryan came away impressed with Blue Valley 2027 wide receiver Jacob Lockett on Friday night. Here's what Lockett had to say after the game.
Here with Jacob Lockett after a big win over Blue Valley Northwest. First off, let's talk about this offense, man. What is clicking with you guys? It seems like every week you get better and better, more efficient, and still putting up points.
Yeah, we're trying not to add too much to our game plan, just kind of stay consistent, using our guys, seeing what we can do with the scouts on the defense.
Where do you feel like, obviously with the Lockett name, right? You've been kind of watched, everybody's been looking at you since you were a freshman, right? But where do you feel like you and Jordan have made the most improvement?
Yeah, really in my deep ball game, I feel like I can just go up and get that no matter who's on me. And really my speed, that's where I've been trying to improve most. And that's what I've been working on in the off season the most, so yeah.
Is it nice to have dad that you can kind of lean on for film advice, or when Tyler's back in town? How much do you lean on family?
Yeah, most of the time, after a game, we're just watching film. He's telling us what we can do better, and it's really helpful to see what advice he could give us.
What do you feel like is the best advice you've gotten from Dad and Tyler so far?
Really just the route running, because, based on how the defense is going to play this week, whether it's cover 2, cover 4, he just tells us how we should be running our routes, what we should be looking for. And also he helps he helps us tell our quarterback, Dan, like how the ball is going to be. Like if it's cover 2 and we're running to go, it'll probably be a 2 ball.
So getting into recruiting, let's talk about, obviously, Sterling up at K-State. You were there last week. What do you like about K-State right now? What do you hear from Sterling about, what it would be like potentially for you and Jordan to play in that program?
Yeah, I'm really glad to see Sterling getting more involved in the program. I'm looking forward to continue watching him. And I mean, the atmosphere is crazy. I love going to the games. It's really fun.
Coach Middleton, is he kind of the one that's recruiting you the most from there, and Coach Bratt maybe?
Yeah, him and Coach Bratt.
Who else besides K-State is kind of starting to get involved with you? You mentioned a couple. Let's let the fans know who else is involved right now.
Yeah, KU, North Dakota. I got Iowa State, a few others.
Do you have any other plans? Obviously, like I said, K-State last weekend. Any other visits maybe coming up?
Yeah, I'm going to North Dakota, KU, Iowa State, and UNI.
And then you mentioned the offer from McNeese State, and obviously Coach Smitty. For those that don't know, Michael Smith, longtime wide receiver coach at K-State. What did it mean to get that offer and kind of get things rolling with McNeese?
That felt really good because I know if I go there, I'll be in a good position with a good coach, good program to develop me and prepare me for the future.
Last but not least, Jacob, when it's all said and done, when you start to think like it is time for me to make a college decision, what are the priorities? What are the things that are going to be important to you in that decision?
Yeah, really the coaching and the program itself. Like I've taken it into accountability, like how the offense is ran, and really just like once I go on a visit there, just I'll see what my decision is going to be.
That was emerging 2027 wide receiver Jacob Lockett of Blue Valley, and this has been the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. Thanks to all of you for following along. If you enjoyed what you saw or heard, leave us a comment or review. Like this video, subscribe here on YouTube, or hit us with a 5-star rating if you're listening on an audio platform. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, specifically in Hayes, America, and take care.